Hey everybody, welcome to the Let's Be Family podcast. Yeah, here we are. Caught you sneezing?
Yeah.
Smelling salts? I was just asking you if you've ever
No.
tried smelling salts before.
Why would I try smelling salts? I've never been like unconscious like that.
Well, that's what I mean, like if it's ever happened to you, where you've ever been unconscious.
So, I mean, that one time when I fell in elementary school and apparently I hit the ground so loud that sounded like a watermelon smashing against concrete. That's what somebody told my mom. We were playing tag at recess.
Tag is dangerous.
Yeah. I was running and apparently I like ran onto somebody and fell.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember.
It all went black.
Yeah. I don't remember. I just remember like that I was sitting in the principal's office and my head was hurting and they called my mom. Luckily, my mom.
So wait, hold on, real quick. You got knocked unconscious, right?
Yes.
And you woke up in the principal's office, not like a nurse's office. Did you guys not have a nurse?
No, we did, but I guess like the nurse took care of me, and then they just took me to the principal's office to wait for my mom to pick me up. That's where I was.
So, but no smelling salts. Yeah, no,
not that I remember. Maybe they did. I don't know.
I just heard a bunch of people recently, just in not connected or related to things, but I've just heard it come up multiple times, and I've never experienced it. And I was just wondering if you did, because it's supposed to be like the most intense thing you could ever smell, and it like
wakes you
opens your whole face up.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't remember the smell.
I know, like a lot of
maybe if I smell it again, maybe I would go like, huh, now that makes sense.
You would know. You would know if you had it.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Weightlifters use it a lot, like just to kind of they'll just like
does that smell
get
like
a hit of it?
Vaporru? Is it like the
No.
Vaporru?
Like if you sniff too hard, you'll probably
fry your face off.
No, like worse.
Like your face melts.
Yeah, like your face melts. Hey, so by the way, first podcast recording in our
new
remodeled studio, our setup here. So, yeah.
Cool beans.
Yeah, we've been working hard to change things around and make things more aesthetically pleasing, but also more comfortable. And I like this. We're right across, I almost said across the street, right across the table from each other. I feel more connected. I like it. I don't know. I like it already.
Across the street. Across the rancho.
Yeah.
Across the river.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Through the woods.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this, Denisse. This came up. It was just a question that came up on another podcast that I was listening to, and so I was wondering, what would you? Let's say if you were in a fire, so your house is on fire, your house is burning down, and you're running out of the house, and you've got time to grab one thing. What one thing would you grab?
My children.
Okay, not. All right, I would hope your children. Let's assume that all the children are safe. Let's assume yeah, human beings are safe, so you don't have to worry about grabbing your children. I grabbed all the children. What are you grabbing?
I don't know.
Or if you grabbed all the children, you're like, Duke, grab the fill in the blank. Like, what is that thing?
I have been where fire has happened in the house.
Yeah, you've been in a house fire.
Like, I've been in a house fire before. So I'm trying to
I wasn't home.
No, you weren't, but I was.
Mysteriously, I wasn't home.
You weren't home. I was. And I think it was Josiah born at that time?
No,
it was just Elijah.
Elijah was little.
So, yeah,
Elijah was like 3.
We had just Elijah. Yeah. So, I mean, I had my phone close by at that moment, so I don't think I thought about like, oh, wait, I need to go get my phone, because I already had my phone.
Yeah. Yeah, my first thought was my phone, but assume your phone's in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's a given.
Plus, if you grab your phone, you can still grab something else because your phone, you know what I mean? Like your phone's little. So What's like an item that's not normally with you that is an important thing that you're like, I would not want to lose this, or this would be really difficult to replace, or something like that?
Our filer with like all of our important documents. That's about it.
Yeah. Passports and birth certificates and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if are they all in the same spot? Yeah, the immigration papers, all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah, so that's probably what I would that's probably what I would grab if I had to grab something. Yeah. If I could only grab one thing. It'd probably be that, and then maybe like my laptop or something like that, but I mean that's not even cuz okay, so here's the thing.
I think back at in some years like before the whole cloud and stuff like that, I think people will probably consider their computer like a very valuable asset because your documentation, important information is there. But now with the revolution, I guess, of you being able to store things on the cloud and being able to access accounts that are connected and all that, I don't think that that's that important anymore.
Yeah, and it used to even be like somebody might want to grab a TV or just something because they used to be so expensive, but now like big screen, flat screen TV, like they're not even that expensive anymore, so it's not that difficult to replace. Plus, if you have renter's insurance, it's like you can replace your computers and all that kind of stuff, and if you have good,
I don't know, maybe like for some people, if you had like collectible like baseball cards, maybe that would be something that some people would be like, oh my baseball cards, like or comics or something like that, coins that are collectibles, like maybe
I'd be upset.
if you have a safe, like a smaller safe where you obviously hold things that are valuable, then probably then I can see some people saying like, oh, I will go get my guns.
The guns might survive though.
No, right? But I don't know.
I don't know. Actually, I have no idea.
I don't know
if they would or not.
Yeah.
But I'd be super upset if I lost all my like baseball and basketball cards. But where I have them right now, like there's no way I'd get to them in time because I'd have to dig, and I don't even know exactly sure what box they're like. I know what closet they're in, but I don't know what box they're in that closet, and so there's no way I'd get to it in time. I'd be
you'd be torched.
Yeah,
because we had to find spots to put some stuff still in boxes from the move that I don't even think like there's boxes in the garage that we haven't even touched, and I don't even know what's in it.
Yeah, we should just donate that stuff.
Yeah.
Because
and I was
don't
just
even know
thinking
what's
the
in
other
it
day,
either.
I was like, you know what? Like I feel like clutter, and as soon as I feel clutter, I feel like I have a need to just let's declutter and get rid of some stuff. Just I don't know. I'm not very good with clutter. I must be honest about that. Clutter like exhausts me. Like it really exhausts me mentally, and I just don't like. I want to grab a garbage bag and just throw it all in the garbage and be gone. Be done.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I go through phases like that where sometimes I just get just fed up with stuff, and I'll just start throwing everything away.
And I think it's hard, especially when you have little kids. So I think we have to give ourselves, or I have to give myself grace sometimes, and I forget that because I want to, but I shouldn't expect Sophia to keep her toys out of my room, or to keep her bedroom like all neatly put together, because she's a child. She doesn't really like think about, oh, this needs to be neatly. She is learning to clean up, and she's slowly, and she helps in the sense of like, you tell her go put this somewhere, and she'll go put it there. And there are times where I honestly don't have the patience to clean her room, like her toys. And I just kind of pick my battle with it and decide, hey, you know what? It's okay. Like she's her bed is clean. She can sleep in her bed. We can, walk around stuff. It's gonna be okay. It's not the end of the world. Yeah. I used to get very like worked up with stuff like that. But I think she's the third child by that time now. It's like, you know what? It's gonna be fine.
Yeah. What do you think about, I remember several people in the past saying something like to the effect that if you're, got a lot of clutter going on, whether it's, your car's really messy or your room is really messy or something like that, it's a sign that your life is messy, or that, they would say like, um, I specifically remember somebody at one of our teachers at Bible school said, I can tell a lot about a person's spiritual life just by looking at their car and
Yeah.
seeing how, how messy it is and things like that.
Yeah.
What do you think about statements like that?
Yeah. I do think that there is a certain connection to it. I'm not sure to what extent,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think that when there's things that you're dealing with or things you're going through and you're not certain about it, you might have less time to pay attention to taking care of things
Mm-hmm.
in the natural. So you leave maybe like unfinished tasks because you're still like processing things.
I think most of the time, the way you maintain your physical appearance, the way you maintain your home, your vehicles, the way you maintain things in life that you have. I mean, we're called to be stewards, right? God
Yeah,
calls us
I
to
think
steward well the things that He's
that's the word.
given us, that
Yeah.
He's put into our hands and blessed us with. So when we're not stewarding well the things of God, which the things of God are not just quote unquote spiritual things, but the things, again, that, I mean, everything that I have belongs to God at the end of the
Yeah.
day. And so when I'm not stewarding well the things in my life, it probably is a sign that there's something going on, but not necessarily, right? Like I
Yeah.
would say maybe like probably like 90% of the time, I could say it is that maybe there is something that I'm just unaware of, or
Yeah.
something that I'm lacking in, or something that I'm just letting slip, or something. But I would say that I wouldn't say it's like that for necessarily every single person,
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily like that all the time. But I think that for the individual person, so if you're generally speaking a very neat person and you're very organized, and then all of a sudden you seem to be comfortable with disorder, then that might be a
That's a
sign that
flag,
for that
right?
person
Yeah.
that something's off, because you're letting things
Go.
go
Mm.
that you wouldn't normally let get to that point. So
Yeah.
maybe you've got this something going on where you're
Yeah.
not focused like where you should be, or something like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that hoarding is a problem. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can take on that um, behavior, or I believe it's a spirit. So I think there's a spiritual stronghold with that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not everybody believes that, but I personally do.
Well, I think with hoarding, sorry, am I interrupting you?
No, no, no. Go ahead.
I think with hoarding, um, there's usually a spirit of poverty,
Yeah.
I'd say,
Mm-hmm.
connected to it,
Yeah.
because it's like the unwillingness to let go of things
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
Yeah. I also think that it might be connected with grief. Not a lot of people think this,
Grief.
but I
Oh.
do believe that sometimes it might be connected with grief.
Mm-hmm.
Like if someone um, has experienced the loss of a loved one, and then they find it hard to let go of certain things,
Mm-hmm.
and then because they find it hard to let go of those things, it becomes like, now I collect and I start gravitating towards keeping everything because I haven't dealt with the loss.
Mm.
um so I think sometimes it's easy to hoard things,
Mm.
to find a sense of safety. So you said, like sometimes it's connected to a spirit of poverty, because maybe um you feel like, I'm gonna need this at some point, and it's better to keep it for whenever I need it. Then if I let go of it, it might
Yeah.
never come back again.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm gonna hold on to it. Um, and somehow it's still connected with like issues in our heart. And I think it's difficult to go through making like an inventory of like the condition of your heart by yourself, and if you're dealing with hurt.
Mm.
Because when you're dealing with hurt, you don't want to feel the pain. You shy away from the pain.
Yeah.
I think depression has to do with it too. Sometimes when you can have bowels of depression, you can let go of, like you say, things that matter to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you stop caring about picking up certain things that normally you would, because the thought at that moment is, why does it matter?
Yeah.
It's not going to make any difference at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And you just kind of lose the sense or the drive
Mm-hmm.
to take care of those things. So overall, I mean, what I see as a common theme in that is loss. Somewhere in there, there's a
Mm-hmm.
sense of loss, whether it's a sense of loss of identity, whether it's a sense of loss of a loved one. It could be the loss of value for yourself as
Right.
well.
Sometimes things happen in life, whether, again, as you said, it could be because of or rooted in some kind of a loss. It could be rooted in some kind of identity crisis or struggle. It could be so many different things. But when we have this perception of ourselves that's diminished, then it can show up in some of those ways where we, again, yes, maybe stop caring about the things we have, or we stop caring about our physical appearance, or we start caring about, whatever it is. And it's oftentimes it is a reflection of that, because we're not putting enough worth and value on ourselves, because we, for whatever reason, can't see how valuable we really are in the eyes of God, and how valuable we really are as people. And I think of extreme circumstances. I've been in some homes of people in the past where there's one that really comes to mind right now. This really bad hoarding situation. I know there's been some, I mean, that show Hoarders. I've never watched it, but I've heard some horror stories. But this woman in her home, she had like just boxes stacked up everywhere, a lot of fast food like wrappers and bags and stuff that just trash, just garbage
Yeah.
everywhere. And there were cats, like dozens and dozens of cats,
Yeah.
just everywhere you turned there were just cats. And so
Mhm.
obviously it smelled horrific.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was rough.
Yeah.
Right. And you think about that, like living in a
That
condition like
condition.
that,
Yeah.
really that's an outward expression of something that's going on the inside of you, where something is just switched off
Yeah.
in terms
Yeah.
of the
The
way you
person is
see yourself, the way you see value,
desensitized.
what you
Yeah.
deserve,
You go on and internally, so inwardly, to be protected,
Mm-hmm.
that it's not, you don't recognize. It's like a blind spot
Mm-hmm.
to see those things, and I was gonna say, like, not all hoarding is connected to, um like you're mentioning, like really deteriorating conditions where there's like garbage and smell
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. Like, because there's cases where like it's just people that are just shelter, like somehow
Yeah.
they create just like a safeguard
Mm-hmm.
around them with things. And I do believe that that's a stronghold that, like you say, there's something happening internally that needs to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we can dismiss it. So it's
Yeah, sometimes it's just a fear of, I don't want to let this go because I don't know if it'll be replaced. I don't want to
yeah.
let this go because this might be the last time I can have something like this. And so
Yeah.
that thing within you of, and I think we, like a lot of us have that, haven't
Yeah.
to an extent
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
well, like, oh, like I don't know if I should let this go because I could maybe repurpose it for this. I could maybe use it for this. I could maybe, and I know I used to have that more than I do now. and sometimes somebody would be giving something away or offering something, and even if I felt like I didn't have a need for it right then, honestly, because I didn't have much, or I felt like I didn't have much, I might say, "Oh yeah, let me have that," even though I didn't have a use for it. I'm thinking maybe I'll have a use for it in the future, and I'd rather have it and have to get
Yeah.
rid of it than whatever. And so I think that for me anyway, it was definitely rooted in a poverty kind of mindedness
Hmm.
of I better take what I can get because I might not be able to get more. And so really
Yeah.
I think what that comes down to is a lack of trust in God and his ability to provide the things that I needed, you know.
Yeah. And I think trust is an important word in that whole situation. The knowing that you can trust with that you're being cared for,
Mhm.
that you're taken care of. And when someone's feeling like they're not cared for, or that the whatever was keeping them safe and protected is no longer there, then the loose of that sense goes out the window. I think
Mhm.
that's when, we get in trouble. And I don't consider myself somebody who has anxiety, because I don't like to appropriate that as something that is mine.
Mhm.
Because I just don't think that that's healthy. But I do recognize that there are times where there could be circumstances that cause me to feel anxious.
Sure, sure.
So if I recognize that is going to take place, instead of avoiding the situation, I've learned to be able to say, okay, I need help with this.
Mhm.
And I will, I will say it, like that one time that I say, hey, listen, our bedroom is just, it's off the handle,
Mhm.
and I can't rest. Like, I can't even sleep. It's just,
Mhm.
I need help. It
Yeah.
like I need, and there's been times where like I've I've told my 13-year-old kid, my 9-year-old, like, hey, could you help me? Like, please, can you please help me clean Sophia's room?
Yeah. Sure.
Because I don't have at this moment, the
Yeah.
capacity to do it myself, because I am stressed
Mhm.
about this. And I don't think there's anything wrong to be able to tell that to my child.
Yeah.
And I think it gives our children a good understanding that even as adults, being an adult doesn't mean having it all together.
Yeah.
It just means that we're mature enough to process things differently, take responsibility, and being able to ask for help and
Mhm.
be able to provide help and support when it's needed.
Yeah.
So there are times where, I would say, like, hey, buddy, can you help me clean your sister's room right
Yeah.
now? Just because even if I walk by it and I see that it's a mess,
Mhm.
there are moments where it's just like, it just, it really disturbs me. And
Yeah.
there's other times where I can see it and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to close the door for right now, because
Yeah.
that's what I need to do right now at this moment. Um, Having a home and being a steward of your home is so important. But at the same time, I believe that there's a balance of not allowing the chores of keeping your house uh, livable
Mhm.
become something that overwhelms you too much.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we can have what is the word? Unnecessary expectations, or expectations that are incorrectly placed.
Mhm.
And I think it's also important in terms of teaching responsibility.
Sure.
Everybody pitches in.
Well, I remember years ago we had a prophetic word come through our church about decluttering your life, and that was kind of a blanket statement that we could have applied to a lot of different areas, right?
Hmm.
So it definitely could be applied to like mental clutter and stuff like that, and the things that are going on in your life, like those things, like if you recognize there's a lot of things happening in your world that are keeping you stressed out and keeping you overwhelmed, evaluate those things and find out, are these things that I'm constantly or regularly getting overwhelmed by? Are these things that are non-negotiables in my life, or are they things that I can let go? You know? And if it's something that is stressing me out, is it something that I need to have in my life? And if I do need to have it in my life, I need to figure out, okay, why is it stressing me out so much? And figure out a way, and it might be just becoming practical with how to get things done. It might be just like, God, Holy Spirit, what are you saying? Like, what do I need to
Yeah.
do to
Mhm.
fix this? Because I can't get rid of this. I can't get rid of these people, or I can't get rid of this activity, or whatever it is. But the way that it's happening in my life right now, it's not working. And God does not want us living stressed and living anxious and living overwhelmed. We should not be living that way. There's going to be times where things come and they overwhelm us in the moment that we're in. But if I'm regularly getting overwhelmed by the same things, then it tells me that either I don't need that in my life, or I need to change my relationship with that thing so that it doesn't have this effect on me anymore.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So it could be the mental stuff, could be things like that, but for sure it could definitely just be the actual clutter, actual mess. And you were talking about this a minute ago about how sometimes things can be messy, things can be junky, and then it begins to subconsciously, I guess, affect the way that we sleep. We're not sleeping well. And the analogy that that Bishop used was like, when you go to a hotel, you get away, you go to a hotel room, you typically sleep really well. And a lot of that is because of the fact that there's no clutter. I mean, you're not surrounded by boxes and papers and stuff you haven't dealt with, and the mail that's piled up, and the dishes, and like whatever it might be. You're not surrounded by that stuff. It's a clean slate, it's blank, it's minimalistic, and you're just kind of there. And so you're free from all that stuff. And a lot of times when you get into that different environment, you tend to rest well. So it's important, I think, when we talk about these things, like, what are the areas in my life, because we all have them. What are the
Yeah.
areas in my life where there is too much clutter? What are the areas in my life where there are things where I'm getting overwhelmed by stuff that's just not worth it to get overwhelmed about. I'm getting anxious and worried and confused, and I'm like overworked. I'm getting burned out. I'm it's too much. It's too hard. Like, why is it doing
Mhm.
this? And to kind of like be able to evaluate those things and to say, well, maybe, maybe I was doing some things last season that were necessary for that season, but now I've kind of like transitioned. I'm in a new season, so I've got new things to take care of that are very necessary, but maybe I haven't cut things out
Yeah.
that I wasn't supposed to carry through.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think we have a tendency to carry things over when it might not be what's right for us in the season or the stage of
Mhm.
life that we're in
Yeah.
now, and it might not be what God's doing where we are now. And so just that, I think that willingness to kind of come back and to reevaluate things in our lives, because just because we did something one way for a certain period of time, and just because it was good and it was helpful, doesn't mean that it's supposed to be that way forever. And so sometimes when we don't evaluate things and we don't adjust to new seasons and new things that are happening, that's one of the things I think that can very, very easily lead to just things piling up, and then we're all of a sudden we're overwhelmed and we can't even figure out why.
And sometimes we want to tackle things like, let's get all of it. Like,
Hmm.
it it's not that you can't do it that way, is that it's not efficient. Because if you try to just do the whole big thing,
Yeah.
it's gonna become overwhelming at some
Yeah.
point. So if you just tackle it from something small,
Hmm.
then you have a starting point, and then you finish that and you can move on to the next thing. So it's not like five unfinished tasks.
Yep.
Then maybe I finished two, I still have three more to finish, but it's okay if they they go on for the next day
Yeah.
or the next week, or, like, you have to learn to recognize that. I mean, and I think it also depends maybe in the size of your family. I've recognized that at each stage with our children, like when it was just three of us, there were certain things that were easier to take care of because it was just one child, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then it was two. Okay, now certain things are different. Now with three, and they are in three different stages of life, like things have changed.
Mm-hmm.
And it just is gonna get done in a different matter, and it can't always be a one size fits
Sure.
everything or everybody, or like you say, like maybe for this season, what you were doing before is not working. So always being able to adjust or follow the leading of the Holy Spirit when he prompts you, like to recognize, like, hey, this is not. I mean, it's bad when you go away to a hotel and there's no clutter and you cannot sleep. That's bad.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to
That
say.
is bad because that tells you then that it has nothing to really do with the clutter, but that
Mm-hmm.
there might be something else.
Well, the last few times I've stayed in hotel rooms, I didn't sleep well. I was annoyed.
Yeah,
I was
yeah, I
frustrated
was
because I'm
annoyed
like
too.
I'm supposed to be sleeping good here in this big giant bed, but there's something about it that
It
I feel
just
like I'd rather be
wasn't.
in my own
Yeah,
bed sometimes,
yeah.
you know.
For me, it was just too cold. You were cool, like keeping me super frozen.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have differences in terms of how we like temperatures to
Mm-hmm.
sleep. So it's just I can't find like warmth and a certain comfort to fall asleep
Mm-hmm.
if I'm too cold.
Somebody posted where it was a meme or something, and it was like I like let's get I want you to get this straight. I don't want to be warm. I want to be cold so that I can get under my covers and get warm or something like that. And that's 100% how I feel. I want
Yeah.
it to be cold. I want to be cold. I want my pillow to feel cold. I want to be cold because I like being under the covers and I like, you know what I'm saying? I just like it.
Yeah.
And the more covers the better.
I like my
But
covers too. It has nothing to do with the covers, but
but
I
when it's
don't want
hot,
I don't
it's
want to
just
be frozen under my covers. That's a problem for me. If
it
I'm
just it takes you
frozen
longer to warm up.
under the covers, that's a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. It's different
We have different
wavelengths.
thermostats.
Yeah, we sure do. I find that for me a lot of times when I'm procrastinating on something, it's because just the idea of getting started overwhelms me. And so, for example, one of the things that I'll procrastinate on sometimes will be like I know I've got to preach somewhere in a couple weeks. And I might even know what I want to talk about, right? Like I might already know like there's like a direction or something of what of where I want to go, but I might procrastinate on preparing that thing just because there's something about it that's overwhelming me in terms of I don't know how to start. Like I don't know how to start putting notes together. I don't know how to start, and it's not usually just with a teaching, but when if I have to prepare like an actual outline or some kind of a written thing, it's just kind of like for me, and I do it all the time. I create outlines and like I've done curriculums and different things, and I do it. And I know how to do it, but for some reason, almost every time when I have to do it again, it's just like this getting started part. For some reason, it overwhelms me, and because I don't know where to start, I'll procrastinate and I'll put it off longer than I should before I actually get started. And then so what I'll end up doing because I'm running out of time is like, all right, I just gotta get into this. So what do? I do what I always do. I just start writing. I write down an objective and I write down a scripture and I write down a theme and I just start writing. And then before I know it, the thing starts to materialize and then it turns into an outline. It's like, oh yeah, I do know how to do this. But for some reason, that kind of like getting started thing. So anyway, to your point that you were making a second ago, on anything, whether it's on that or if it's cleaning the house, I think that something that's helpful at least for me, maybe not everybody's brain works the same way, but I think for a lot of people, it's my goal should not be, or like my end goal is I've got to create this outline for this teaching series. My end goal is I need my house cleaned by November 1st or whatever. And so, but if I look at it and I'm like, oh, I got to clean the whole house. It's all the stuff that's included in that I have to do, that for me, like I'll just put it off because it just seems so overwhelming. But if you break it down into manageable, reasonable, achievable goals, why are you laughing at me so much? You know what I'm saying? Like if you break it down to, I don't need to clean the whole house today.
No.
I can clean the laundry room. I can, you know what I'm saying? Like I can put it into something that's manageable.
Yeah.
And I can do the same thing with a teaching outline. I could do the same thing with a book that I'm writing. I could do the same thing with, if it's stuff on my job or whatever, we can just do it that way. And I just think that those little tweaks where I'm not thinking about the whole picture of everything that I need to get done. It's what can I do now? Because so it seems insignificant to be like, well, I'm going to spend 20 minutes or I'm going to spend an hour today trying to knock out this task. And if I'm looking at the whole thing as like, well, this is going to take me like hundreds of hours to do, or this is going to take a whole lot of time to do, then if that thought keeps me from spending those 20 minutes or 1 hour because I feel like it's insignificant, then I'm never going to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
But at least if today I can be level-headed enough to say, I'm going to accomplish one thing and I'm going to spend 30 minutes working on this.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've spent 30 minutes. And if I do that tomorrow and I do it the next day and I do it the next day, I mean, 3 hours a week, 5 hours a week, whatever it is, I mean, that ends up being dozens of hours over the course of a year or over the course of, however long we have. But it adds up.
Yeah.
And it's the idea of, if I go outside with an axe and every single day I take 5 chops at the oak tree, on day 1, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
I might not be able to see any results. On day 2, nothing's going to happen. On day 3, I might start to see some kind of, something going on there, like some kind of damage being done at least. And I mean, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 months, like the tree is still there, but it's getting weaker. I'm doing something, I'm making some kind of progress.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I just stood back from the very beginning and said, well, 5 chops is not going to do anything.
Yeah.
So I better just stay inside and keep eating Cheetos and keep doing whatever I'm doing, keep worrying about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Then that tree's never going to come, ever. It'll never come down because I'm never going to put any effort into doing it because I'm overwhelmed at the bigness of the tree.
Yeah.
But if I'll at least be willing to put something into it in different stages along the way, eventually, it might take a year, it might take a long period of time, but eventually that thing is going to come down.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's important, the effort that you need to put in whatever is required of you, as much as also keeping the motivation, because you do need motivation to do certain things. And I found like if I'm not motivated to wash the dishes, like I'm not gonna condemn myself to wash the dishes. I'm just not.
Condemn.
Yeah, because
like it's a death sentence.
No, because I'm for myself, like I know that there's been times where like I feel like, oh, I'm a terrible wife, I'm a terrible mother because I can't go wash dishes right now. Like, like because the dishes need my attention, but my kids also need my attention. So what has more value? Do I want happy kids or do I want clean dishes? So, at that moment I recognize like, you know what? if I haven't seen my kids or if I've been at work for too long, I'm going to prioritize that to dirty dishes,
Yeah.
you know? And at the same time, like, just have a reminder with my kids, like, especially during the summer, like, I'll do this, hey guys, you guys are home, you can wash your plate. After you eat, if you
Mm-hmm.
help me washing your plate and your cup, whatever you used right after you do it,
Yeah.
it's gonna help because then the dishes are not gonna pile up.
Mm-hmm.
I know when we're in school and we have other activities, it might be different because there's not as much downtime than when you're just during the summer.
Sure.
So let's make adjustments, and sometimes they do need a reminder because they're not perfect either. They're not, um, and I think it's giving yourself grace and giving your family grace. Like I would love to do all my laundry in one sitting and be able to fold it and put it up and everything and have everything like that. But there's times where I recognize, you know what? I'm not in the mood to fold all the laundry.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna I'm just gonna leave the basket there for right now.
I don't
But
think I've
at
ever
some
done
point,
all the
no,
laundry
it's okay. No,
ever
no,
at one
no.
time.
I think only like when it was just the two of us, probably. You probably would do more often.
I wash and I think I'm gonna be good, and then inevitably every single time I forget, and then it sits in the washer, it sits in the dryer. It might be dry, but it's still sitting in there. Then I've got other loads to do, and then so I'll move the clothes aside just to get the other ones in there, and then I forget to fold those clothes, and then a week goes by, and then you end up folding all the clothes.
That's why you need that when you share the load when it's a family. So if you're gonna make sure that it gets washed, I don't mind just folding it and putting it away. It's
Mm-hmm.
you just kind of have to learn to adjust. Like it's not all gonna be done the way. I mean, I'm grateful that we have a dishwasher that works. So if it's loading the dish in a dishwasher, that's good. There are times where I like very Mexican in my way, in the sense of no, I want to I want to wash the dishes by hand. I want to take that time to wash the dishes by hand, and it's gonna sound crazy to some people, but it relaxes me. Like at that moment, if I do it that way, it just helps me. Like it just, you know, declutters my mind and it de-stresses me.
Mm-hmm.
So for some people that might not do that. So then you just gotta have to find what works for you and what works for your family,
Yeah.
and not again like allow things to overwhelm you to the point that you just get stuck and can't do anything. Like
Yeah.
you gotta start somewhere. I remember when I would have those moments, like, and I was younger, and I would tell my mom, like, I can't. I'm too overwhelmed. I'm too like, and she would say, okay, then just go see, do absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And to this day, like my mom sometimes, she'll call me or we'll talk, and, she can tell I'm stressed about something, and she's just like, hey, just don't do anything.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything right now. Just sit and just relax.
Yeah.
Like this afternoon, I went out with Elijah, and I was like, let me put some worship music, and I just need to reset my mind. Let me just. And he's like, okay. And we're in the car, and then I'm listening to this worship song, and it's like, it's not doing it. And I'm just like, you know what?
Was it
This is
all
not,
about me?
yeah, it's just I don't even know what the song was, but it was just not like,
Yeah.
it defeats the purpose for what I'm supposed to be doing, and I really just felt like God telling me like, hey, don't worry about it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't.
Yeah.
Just talk to Elijah. Just enjoy the drive. We just, and we just chill. We just kind of laugh together, and it's good. But it's like being able to hear the prompting and the leading of the Holy Spirit as you're going through those seasons, because
Yeah.
sometimes it might be, sometimes it might not. So it's not a one size fits all for everything.
For sure. Yeah, and what I was saying before about
You don't get your washing done or that?
No, no. Like what I was saying about how, a little bit of effort here and then a little bit of effort there, how it builds and adds up. That's just the natural side, right? Like that's not even taking into account God putting his super on our natural,
Right.
right? Like because he is a supernatural God and he moves in our lives and he's able to do more with our little
Yeah.
than we could ever do with, spinning our wheels and trying to go crazy and burn ourselves out and all of that. And there's times where God will do more with our nothing.
Yeah.
Like in those times where, you're so overwhelmed by something and you got to get something done, you feel like it's the most important thing in the world. And then God speaks and just says, hey, put this down, take a nap, do something for yourself. And you're like, no way. Like, that's the worst advice, God. Like, that's the,
That's
let
not
me, I
spiritual
got to do
enough.
this and I can try to figure it out on my own and probably mess it up or probably not get anywhere. But I find that in those times when I just listen to him, even when it doesn't seem to make sense, that he's able to just accomplish things for me as I just give it to him and rest in him.
Whoa. We're still there?
We're still there. Sorry,
Okay.
the computer screen just went dead. It freaked me out.
It just scared me. Whoa.
That's never happened to me before.
There's always the first.
Yeah. I mean, it's happened to me before, but never recording a podcast. That's probably not true either. It's probably happened many times. Many times.
It's okay.
But yeah, so anyway. But yeah, also, and then just the last thing I want to say, just to your point from that you were just making, it's important, I think, for all of us to recognize that it's not all one size fits all, and that what works, well, first of all, what worked for me before might not be what's going to work for me now.
Yeah.
But also, what works for this family or this person is not necessarily what is going to work for me.
Yeah.
And so,
And you
letting
can try
go.
it though. It's good to try though. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, if you're trying to develop yourself, in your time management or in taking on new things or
Mhm.
learning new things, like I think it's always good to you have to give it a try.
Mhm.
Give it a try. And if it works, okay, great.
Yeah.
Then you can implement it. If it doesn't work, don't feel condemned because it didn't work.
Exactly.
Just kind of tailor it, find a way to like, okay, what worked from it and what didn't,
Mhm.
and see it was it something that didn't work because I need to make the change
Mhm.
and adapt to something else, or it just doesn't work because it's not for me,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cuz it's like so often we're trying to like keep up with the Joneses for example, and it's okay, but we're not the Joneses. Like we're
Yeah,
we're not them, and so I shouldn't use them as the standard by which I'm judging my life.
yeah,
And I think it's important for us to find, well, what works for you? Because sometimes I'm trying to do something the way that they do it and it's not working for me, and then I
hmm,
end up feeling ashamed or I end up feeling
yeah,
condemned because I'm not as good as them, or it's things don't work as well for me as it is for, and it's like, well, maybe you shouldn't try to do everything the way that they're doing it
yeah,
because you're not them and there might be a different way that's better. And so it's being honest with yourself. How did things work for you? How did things work for your family? How did things work in this season? How is it like, because it's just not, it's not helpful to try to follow a specific pattern that at the end of the day is stressing you out, you know? So,
yeah, especially because going back to that word stewardship, you want to be able to steward your time. You also want to be able to steward the people that are in your life,
mhm,
because a lot of times we can think about stewardship as just, oh, the resources.
right.
And the resources are important, they're necessary. But the people for whose the resources are there for
Mhm.
are more important, far more important than the resources.
Yes.
So if God you have a family, steward that family. That has value more than other things. God knows you have a family. So God is not going to ask you for something that's going to sacrifice your family. So it's important to recognize that. You have a spouse, make sure that you're prioritizing the stewardship of your relationship with your spouse.
Yes.
Because if you're not doing that, you're not going to be able to, other things are going to fall off the cracks. And that's far more important than other things.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a balance. It's like learning to balance things. And like you say, sometimes the seasons change, and it's important to recognize when the seasons are changing. And there are seasons when you might be busier, or there might be more of a demand of certain things, and it's being able to recognize, okay, this season is going to demand or require this much. Let's make the adjustments. How can I adjust so that I can have valuable time with my family, so that I can have valuable time to put in the work for whatever project I'm working on.
Yeah.
Have leisure time to just disconnect, whatever. If I have to keep the house clean or stuff, like how can I manage it? Like, which way, what things can forego for a little bit longer than others,
Right.
and just do adjustments, and at the end of the day, it's being sensitive again to the leading of God as you're walking through the season that you're in.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just think with that, just communicating it, communicating with, first of all, with your spouse, and then with if you have kids, but communicating those things that, hey, the next 3 weeks might be a little I try to say dicey and choppy at the same time. These might be a little dicey.
I like making up words.
Yeah.
New vocabulary. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, things gonna get chicey around here. So yeah, I think just kind of communicate, because I mean I don't think I'm good at that personally, but I'm trying to get better. But it's like I think a lot of times we miss things just in the area of communication. Like things fell apart because we were like super disconnected. But like if we had just communicated better, like, this is why this is happening, this is why my time is divided, this is why, it doesn't have to become something that's explosive. But when we don't communicate, then it's like, oh, well, I thought this was happening because of this, and so we end up on different pages, and it doesn't work well. So I just think when stuff like that is going on, particularly in those busy seasons or whatever, it's just that extra communication, that like go overboard on the communication, because it's helpful, because you just avoid a lot of misunderstandings along the way.
It's good savvy.
So yeah,
I think that's a wrap. Unless you want to go somewhere else.
Nope.
I'm good.
That's good. We'll wrap it up. First podcast with our new setup.
Yeah.
How'd you feel?
Cool. I like it. Just feel a little dark. I am dark.
We'll figure out. We gotta maybe get some more lights.
Yep.
In here, but I just realized that light up there is not even on.
Maybe that's half the problem.
That might be a part of the problem, but
1%, definitely.
Well, okay. I feel silly.
I'm getting really cold, so I need to go get under my covers now.
You're cold? I wish I was cold, man.
I am cold.
I sweat all the time. I wish I was cold more often. Thanks everybody for joining us. You guys are the best. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, review, leave a rating, and yeah.
See you on the flip side.
Get you on the flippity flip. Bye.